Now, how many of you out there in Nevada County know what an auditor controller is and does? Do many of you even know who the auditor controller is? Now, we hear all the time about our various fees and taxes that are due to be paid and by the county tax collector. We hear about our property taxes from the county assessor. And of course, we hear news releases from our county sheriff and members of our board of supervisors. But how often do you hear a news report from the Nevada County Auditor Controller? Now, Nevada County's website notes that the Auditor Controller is the Chief Accounting Officer of the county. Duties are performed under legal authority of the California Government Code, specifically sections 26,800 through 26,900. The Auditor Controller is an elected official that is responsible for providing a broad range of financial accounting and auditing services to all county departments, agencies, and special districts within Nevada County whose funds are kept in the county treasury. Okay, now let's go a little deeper into this with our guest today, who's Nevada County Auditor Controller Gina Will, as we try to find out what she does, who she is, and how she came to hold this position in Nevada County. So Gina, thank you very much for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Appreciate it. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So anyway, you're like the elected officials. You're like the mystery person of elected officials, because most elected officials are out there putting their face on the camera as much as they can. And I guess if you could start out, maybe give me a little idea what a auditor controller does. Now, my only experience with the auditor controller is when I was on the grand jury. I saw my check for the little stipend we got came from the auditor controller. So I assume that's one thing. You must make the payroll for the county. So is there any, just feel free to tell me exactly what you do.
Sure. So the Auditor Controller's Office is responsible for 4 main functional areas of county finances, essentially. So we do prepare accounts payable, not only for all county departments, but also for many of the special districts in our county. We do process payroll for all county employees, so that includes obviously not only payroll, but the benefits involved and the reporting requirements for payroll.
Okay.
We have a team that works very closely with both the assessor and the tax collector's office on property tax administration. So essentially, it is my office's responsibility to establish the rates, which are then approved by the Board of Supervisors.
To establish the property tax rates?
Property tax rates, correct. So that includes adding special assessments that a special district may have had approved by their voters, or perhaps a bond that a school may have had their voters approved for constructing a facility. So based on those approved fees, we add those fees to the property tax roll. That information is essentially approved by the Board of Supervisors. And then the other piece of property tax administration that my office assists with, so after the tax collector has actually collected all of the property taxes, then it's my office's job to apportion those revenues out to all of the taxing entities throughout the county.
Okay.
So, and for many special districts, that is their primary source of revenue for providing services.
So you make sure all the books are balanced.
That's correct.
Okay. Now
That's
you said payroll, county payroll. Do you also pay all the vendors? Let's say they have a contractor to rebuild a section of road. You would pay that contractor.
Exactly. So there's there's a process for that, obviously. So we do have departments very involved in that. Obviously, the departments are the ones that are contracting for the particular service or product. So they're approving that particular invoice or contract payment. That information comes to our office. We then review it to make sure that there is appropriate budget available and that proper authorities have been provided, and then we issue the payment.
All right. What else can you tell me about the audit? Feel free
So,
just to keep
sure,
going.
yeah. So I think one of the most important responsibilities of our office is the financial reporting for the county. So we prepare the annual, we call it the ACFR, as an acronym. It's the annual financial report for the county.
Okay.
So it includes the activities of all of the departments as well as some component units.
Excuse me.
So any particular entity, if the Board of Supervisors oversees any of their finances, we have to incorporate that information into our financial statements. And then we actually hire an independent auditor to come in and audit the financial statements that we've prepared to ensure that they fairly present the actual financial condition of the county.
Okay. So you're the bean counter.
I am the bean counter. That's a very
The
good
head
way.
bean counter. Not just the beans, but the peas also, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, we really serve as a system of checks and balances through the county. So we're making sure that people are following the policies and procedures that have been implemented by the board and by federal and state grantors or programs.
Now that also includes special districts. I mean, for example, we've got, 8 or 10 fire districts in this county.
Right.
Do you do that, provide those services to all of them also?
So we provide accounts payable services to them. Then they actually produce their own financial statements. But one of my requirements, according to government code, is that we make sure that they are actually doing those financial statements. And we post those financial statements on our website.
Okay, on the county's website.
On the county's website.
So if I want to know what Penn Valley Fire District is doing, I can look up their financial statement on the county's website. Not just the Penn Valley Fire District's website.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, tell me, if you can, what kind of training do you have to be the auditor controller?
So there's very specific qualifications for being auditor controller. One is basically experience in government accounting. Government accounting is boring as it sounds for your viewers, is actually quite a bit different than financial accounting in the private sector. There's a whole set of government accounting standards that we have to meet to make sure that our financial statements are comparable to other governments' financial statements so that there is uniformity and conformance so that there's a way to review and make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. So it's that knowledge that's important to have of government
any
accounting.
Kind of specialized certifications and whatnot that you have to
So
have?
Many auditor controllers are certified public accountants. So I passed the CPA exam, but I never got through the process of acquiring my certification.
Okay.
So but certainly having the government accounting background that I had was very helpful as I came into the position. I actually served as the assistant auditor controller for 2.5 years before becoming auditor controller for our county.
Oh, okay. Well,
So-
as long as, let me ask you this. You said that you passed the CPA exam, but you never got the certification. Is that kind of like a person that goes to law school but then doesn't take the bar, or what?
Similar, so kind of opposite. I actually sat for the exam. I passed all of the exams, but there's an element, kind of an internship element, where you have to acquire so many hours under the supervision of another CPA, and I didn't go through that process.
And all the things you've been doing in your career
Unfortunately,
doesn't count towards any of that.
didn't count towards that.
I'll be darned.
Yep,
It's interesting.
it is interesting.
Let me ask you this then: what is your background as far as education? What's your educational background?
So I have a degree in accounting.
Is that a bachelor's degree?
It is a bachelor's
Okay.
degree in accounting. Fresh out of college, I actually became the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, for a consulting and lobbying firm in Sacramento that assisted public schools in acquiring funding that they needed, assisting them with various management responsibilities. So I did that for 13 years. So that was certainly very helpful. And then at that point, I transitioned to government accounting. I was the finance director for the town of Paradise for 12 years.
Okay.
And so obviously learned a great deal about government accounting requirements and responsibilities through that process. I started with the town of Paradise in 2008, right as the recession was starting. So there was quite a bit of work to do in righting the ship and making sure that we could continue to provide services based on a declining revenue
Just trying
stream.
to keep the wheels on.
Exactly. So I learned a lot through that process, working with leadership as well as employees, just to provide the best services that we could provide for our community. Okay. So I actually went through the campfire of 2018, assisted the town of Paradise in their recovery in acquiring grants.
You were still in Paradise at the time of the fire.
I was. So went through that.
I know that we spoke before. You were one of the fortunate people that did not lose your home.
Yes, I was very fortunate. We lived about 3 miles out of town limits. So by the time the fire actually reached our neighborhood, there was a wonderful fire team from Tehama County that had an engine parked in our neighborhood, and they saved about 40 homes in our neighborhood.
It's outstanding.
So, yeah.
I'm glad for you.
Thank you.
Very much so.
Thank you.
I actually happen to have neighbors who lost their fire in Paradise and came and now live here in Grass Valley, and there's some other folks too around town that have relocated here. So when did you come to Nevada County?
So we came to Nevada County in 2020.
What made you do that?
We stayed after the campfire a couple years. I actually was raised in the city of Auburn.
Okay.
And so, grew up in Auburn, was raised here. And so after the campfire, a couple of years after the campfire, and realizing that the community had changed so much, we decided to move back to this area.
Okay. And so you moved back to looking for a place. You landed in Nevada County.
Correct.
And how did you come to? Well, let's. They want us to take a commercial here now, so let's do that, and then we'll come back and talk about how you found Nevada County Auditor Controller to work for. How's that?
Sounds great.
All right, we'll be right back, everybody.
In Nevada County, women are making a difference. Whether it's advocating for change, empowering others, or shaping our community's future, the League of Women Voters of Nevada County is here to help you get involved. With nonpartisan voter education, advocacy, and a commitment to a stronger, more informed democracy, the League empowers you to take action and make your voice heard. Join us today at lwvnevadacounty.org. Be the change. Be the voice. Together, we can make a difference. Your voice matters.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're talking with Gina Will, our Nevada County Auditor Controller, and we were just getting to the point where I was asking how you came about coming to Nevada County, how you found Nevada County. So,
Yeah.
how'd that work out?
So right around 2020, actually when COVID had started, my husband decided to retire. Our daughter was going off to college, so it just seemed like a natural time to think about relocating. So it was just very fortunate that the previous auditor controller had a position posted for the assistant auditor controller position. I applied and I was selected for that position, and it was wonderful to be mentored by the prior auditor controller.
That was Marcia Salter.
Marcia Salter.
Nice lady.
Oh,
wonderful. Great person.
Wonderful. We still serve in Rotary together,
okay.
So that's
terrific.
Great. And so wonderful to be mentored by her, to learn a lot from her. She was in that position for 17 years, so obviously I stepped into some very large shoes, but felt comfortable that I had acquired enough information to move forward.
Okay, and your decision to move forward was in 2022?
2022. So Marcia decided to retire. I was originally not interested in running for the position, but she talked me into it.
Had you ever run for an elected position?
I had not. I had always...
I have to admit, now I admire people that do put themselves out there to run for election, because you're putting yourself out.
Right.
To catch all the slings and arrows, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah, it was definitely an experience. It was an experience I learned a lot from, for sure. So she asked me to run. I kind of at first was pretty reluctant, but then agreed to go ahead and run for auditor controller.
What made you want to do it?
I
mean, because that's a big thing. I mean, people
right,
even if it's the city council of Nevada City or Grass Valley, you're still out there catching those slings and arrows from the public,
Yeah, I think for me personally, I've always had a heart for service, and essentially wanting to make sure that the responsibilities of the office would be continued by somebody that had some government accounting experience and that cared a lot about the community. So while I fully recognize that there's probably others out there that are more qualified than I am, I also recognize that potentially that there was others that may not be as qualified as I am and may in fact hurt the office of the auditor controller and then ultimately weaken the financial condition of the county.
Now, I have to ask you, there was some controversy during your election. Is one of the decisions, one of the things you mentioned that you based on the fact that there's people out there that you're afraid would hurt the community? That probably happened if you made me the auditor controller, because I'm not a mathematician by any stretch of the imagination. Is that one of the things that got you to run for auditor controller or to seek elected position?
I mean, it was certainly one of them. We have a fantastic team of people that I work with. There's actually 16 of us in the office, including myself, with various experience and background and expertise. And I think I just recognized that with somebody that wasn't qualified that came in, we'd risk losing a lot of people, and also just having somebody that just really didn't understand their requirements.
Now, you mentioned Ms. Salter encouraged you. Were there other people here in the county that encouraged you? And who were those people?
Kind of indirectly. I certainly spoke to many of the board members, and I had the support of the Board of Supervisors at the time, and Allison Lehman, the county CEO at the time. I mean, they were very careful in that, that The Office of the Auditor Controller is an independent office, and we wanted to be careful we weren't blurring lines there. That's part of the checks and balances that work so well in county government, is that I'm not, I don't report to the Board of Supervisors, nor do I report to the CEO. So I'm able to make an independent assessment or bring up issues that are concerning.
Well, yeah, the way that our California government's set up is that people that are elected office, the sheriff, the treasurer, tax collector, I think is the official title, the county assessor, those people in those elected offices, while they run their departments, they are elected by the voters.
That's correct.
If you take the person who runs Health and Human Services, they're not elected by the governor, or excuse me, by the people. So there's a big difference. And, it's having worked for an elected official for the state, I worked for the Attorney General, they were pretty much independent from the governor. Governor still controlled some things, but there were some things that the governor had no say about. And I assume it's that same kind of situation here in the county?
It's exactly the same. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Now, Nevada County, one of the things I learned when I moved up here 22 years ago, local politics seems to be the national pastime, not baseball. As much as I love baseball, it doesn't seem to be the national pastime. It seems to be local politics in Nevada County and everybody's got an opinion. And you did have a competitor for the position who, and I'm not wanting to argue right or wrong with that because that was apparently adjudicated by a court. But I do have a question about, for example, I assume when you said somebody that you were afraid that would do damage, you were referring to your competitor.
That was one of the considerations, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you this. And one of the allegations was he didn't have the requirements that are laid out in the government code for the county auditor controller. When did you learn he didn't have those qualifications?
So at first I didn't know for sure. He came in and introduced himself to Marcia Salter and myself, and his initial introduction was that he was retired and that his wife wanted him out of the house, which was why he was running.
That's why I'm here doing this.
Yeah.
So
right.
Anyway.
So essentially over our campaign, right, obviously we spoke at many different events together, and as I learned more and more about his background, it became increasingly clear to me that he did not meet the requirements according to government code. The filings, when you fill out paperwork to run for an elected position, all of that paperwork is public. So I went and viewed his information, and he did not indicate any past experience that he had. I personally asked him several times, please provide us your qualifications that demonstrate for us that you meet the qualifications, and he refused.
Okay.
So
and again, I'm not here to
absolutely
go pro or con on which of you, but did you bring this up during, say, candidates forums or whatever during the course of the election?
Yeah, actually, you can see that I did on several occasions bring that up in different candidate forums. That was an issue that was asked of him in several public settings, as well as just, me calling him on the phone and asking him to provide his qualifications.
Now, probably a bad memory for you here, but subsequently there was an election and you lost.
Yep.
I don't know how else to put it.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the amount you lost by was not a small margin. It was like 10 percentage points, somewhere in that neighborhood. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, if I'm wrong,
Oh, you're right.
hit me on the shoulder or
Yeah.
something, wake me up, make sure I'm saying things right. Um, and then when the election was over and you realized you had lost, then what did you decide to do?
So I would add that even before the election happened, I consulted with an attorney, several attorneys, all of which told me there isn't going to be a judge that's going to stop the election. You probably should just focus on running and hope that you win. And so that was obviously my priority at the time. Not only was holding down my full-time position as assistant auditor controller, but also running for election. At the point that I actually lost the election, I obviously became more concerned because from everything that I had seen, my opponent did not meet the qualifications, and I was concerned what it would potentially do to the county.
No.
At that point, I reached out to the Auditor Controller Association in California, and asked them for advice or assistance. They were able to refer me to an excellent elections attorney, and named James Sutton. He actually took my case. And as you mentioned, kind of the rest is history in terms of, unfortunately, we tried to ask Mr. Tribble to step aside based on deposition and information that we were able to acquire that, he did not meet the qualifications.
Now, let me slow you down a little bit.
Sure.
I just want to go back and make sure. Did you contact the elections office here regarding this issue and say, hey, something's wrong here?
Yeah, so
You guys need to fix this.
Yeah, prior to the election, there was several conversations with them. They felt that government code did not provide them an avenue for encouraging Mr. Tribble to provide his qualifications. So that door was closed to me. So the only other option.
What about you said the forms you fill out where you list your qualifications, are those signed under penalty of perjury?
They are, which was one of the reasons.
Did you consider taking it to the DA?
We did actually eventually
the Nevada
take
County
it.
District
Yes,
Attorney?
yeah. So we actually brought it to the attention of Nevada County Grand Jury as well as Nevada County District Attorney.
Okay. Did you get any response from either of them?
No, I think essentially they wanted to see what a court would do, if a court would agree with our position or not. And so ultimately that's the direction that we went. And a court did find, based on the information that we were able to provide, that my opponent did not meet the qualifications and essentially voided the election.
Okay. I read that opinion, and one of the things I noticed is that also the judge, I think it was Tice Raskins. Am I saying that correct? The name? It's two words, Tice-Raskins. And I noticed that he also specifically, though, mentioned that he didn't feel that it was the place of the county or the elections office or whoever to take care of this, that he banked that on the election section of the election code that basically says it's not the county registrar of voters, it's not their job to look at this. And then I went a little ahead and called a couple of the surrounding counties, and they all told me the same thing. They all agreed. A couple of them said they would notify the county council. A couple of them, one of them said, I guess I could call the DA. None of them had ever had anything like this ever happen. This was totally new and uncharted territory that you ventured into. And again, let me ask you this. Subsequently, the judge nullified the election, but he also refused to appoint anyone. Am I correct?
That's correct.
So your only other avenue is to throw your hat in the ring with everybody else that wanted to apply for that job.
That's
before
correct.
The Board of Supervisors.
Essentially, it was left to the Board of Supervisors to determine who to appoint into that position.
Now, I noticed one thing that came up during this was the county council, Miss Elliott, was there during the hearing. She was representing the interests of the county because Mr. Diaz, the elections official at that time, Gregory Diaz, was included in your I don't know civil law that well, I guess complaint that he should have looked through it, and the judge said no, it wasn't his job to do it according to the elections code, and seems to be what everybody else in surrounding counties have done. I got hold of 5 different counties around us and talked to their head of their elections and asked them about that. You sound like you want to say something, or you look like you're wanting to spit something out.
So I would just add that with the support of the association, though, I think there was an opportunity to correct and strengthen some government code. So not only the qualifications for the auditor controller were amended, that section of government code that specifies what those qualifications are. So those were amended by California legislative body to...
They've been amended since you took office?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So they have been amended and strengthened to further clarify the responsibilities of the office and the requirements to serve in that office.
Okay.
In addition to that, the election code was amended to allow for, not mandate, but to allow for elections officials to request information of candidates to prove their qualifications.
And this was done, though, of course, after you've taken office.
Correct.
So you took office in 2023?
I guess January of 23.
Okay, so this is all that's been done since. And the Elections Code, Section 13 of the Elections Code, has been since amended to allow them to do that.
Correct.
But how come these people didn't tell me that?
I don't know. And of course, in the different, I obviously spoke to many different auditor controllers across the state, and some of them had told me that some of their elections officials do go further than our current elections officials do. So it really does seem to be kind of the discretion of the elections official of how far they will go in validating somebody's qualifications.
Now, I understand that after the dust settled, then subsequently your name was put forth to the Board of Supervisors, and they voted to appoint you as the auditor controller. You plan to try to run again for re-election?
I'm still deciding, honestly.
Yeah, after going through this, I can understand why you would have issues about, or not issues, but questions about it, doing it. Like I told you, people that run for elected office, I admire them. They put themselves out there. I guess, I was looking, I did research on this before, because I was curious, one, exactly what the heck the auditor controller does, but also, this whole circuitous route that you had to overcome to become the auditor controller. I noticed that, you, of course, filed campaign reports, and it listed, you had a few donations, and when I say a few, I mean less than how many fingers I have on my hand.
Yeah.
Had like maybe 3. And all the rest of it, you financed it yourself because it noted loans to your campaign, which is not unusual. A lot of candidates do that. Now, I also noticed that before the court hearing came through, you had put forth a claim to the county for $49,500. Why that figure?
At the time, very early on in the lawsuit, when the lawsuit was filed, we thought that the lawsuit was going to be somewhere in the neighborhood between $50,000 and $75,000.
Okay.
So,
What did it end up costing?
$130,000.
$130,000. Okay. Now, I also saw where Mr. Tribble apparently paid $80,000. Mr. Tribble was the competitor. That he paid $80,000, and then subsequently, but first, before this all went, the county, you put in for the claim to the county for $49,500. Why that? That's still that figure. That doesn't come out.
It was just an estimate at the time.
Okay. The reason I ask that is because it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, you're
Sure.
the person that knows
Yep.
this, I'm sure, is any kind of a claim that's less than $50,000 doesn't have to go before the Board of Supervisors.
That's correct.
So 49,500 wouldn't have had to, is there a particular reason that you didn't want it to go to the Board of Supervisors?
No, and in fact, when the county did, I ultimately did get a settlement from the county, and that settlement was approved by the Board of Supervisors,
Okay.
even though it was
Right.
$50,000.
But I noticed that $80,000, Mr. Tribble, on your campaign reports, and you note that $80,000 went to Mr. Sutton. I keep wanting to call him Stewart, like Jimmy Stewart, the actor. The question I have is eventually, yes, the Board of Supervisors selected to give you another $50,000. But I never saw where that went to Mr. Sutton's office on your campaign report.
Yeah, because I had already paid Mr. Sutton at that point.
Okay.
So
And what I saw was the money went to your campaign, paid back your loans with interest.
right. So if you add up all of the amounts that were paid to Sutton Law Firm, you would see that the total amount equaled $127,000.
Okay.
And so essentially, the settlement doesn't necessarily have to be a dollar for dollar reimbursement. It was a settlement, but essentially it went to pay off in order to afford the lawsuit. Obviously, I didn't have $130,000 sitting in the bank, so I had to take out a loan against my home, which had some interest associated with it, and so it is appropriate according to PPC rules that you can repay yourself for interest.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. I was just curious about that. Was that, because I was looking at that and I'm like, wow, you got your campaign paid for, plus paid your lawyer fees. I kind of made me wonder there.
It was essentially just the lawsuit that I was reimbursed for.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and you got that money that you got back was used to pay the extra $50,000 to
Correct.
Mr. Sutton. I
Correct.
see. Okay. Yeah. Well, I can see where you have reservations about deciding to run for this office again. You think you're going to do it? I mean, I know right now you said, no, it's a question mark, but, we're looking, unfortunately, in today's politics, as soon as one election's over, we've already got people angling to run for president.
Oh, absolutely.
In 20
Yeah.
What is that, 2032?
Yeah.
Or 28,
Yeah.
28, excuse me, 2028, 4 more years. Now almost 2 years, a little more than 2 years. What do you think?
I'm undecided. I'll be discussing with my family and, deciding where, certainly I love my job. I love the people that I work with. I greatly admire the Board of Supervisors for the service that they provide to the community. The CEO, we have an amazing CEO. So I, very much enjoy what I'm doing. But we'll see.
Okay, good enough. Well, I'll look forward to it. So, and maybe there's nobody out there who meets the qualifications. I'll even decide to run, I don't
Perhaps.
know.
Yeah.
So, and I thank you for coming in. You
Yeah,
actually taught
thank
me a
you.
couple of things today about the law, the amendments to the law. I didn't know about that, but because I read the election code, and it's pretty much, that's it, that's on the election code. So I'm curious I'm going to hunt for that amendment now that you were talking about, because I never did see that. Well, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Are you having a good time doing it now, though?
I am. I love my job. It's an amazing job, and love the people that I work with, and happy to serve Nevada County.
Okay. And let me ask you this. I don't want you to tell me your age, because my mother always told me you never ask a lady their age. How much longer you got to go before you could retire? And I leave that open-ended because some people retire in their 50s, some people retire in their 60s, some later even.
Right. I think that's to be determined too. I have a feeling no matter what decision I make with the auditor controller's position, I will continue to work as long as I am able. And
so if you don't run, you're going to stay on as the deputy?
Not necessarily, but there's certainly other opportunities that I could explore. So we'll see. There's just so much that I feel like, as you said, everything goes so quickly. It's amazing. It's amazing to believe that it's been, essentially 2 years already. But I feel like I'm just kind of settling into the role, and now needing to start making decisions about the next term.
As the joke goes, you need a year to find your way to the bathroom.
Right.
Right. To know the layout of the lay of the land, as they say.
Yeah.
So, well, anyway, congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
Congratulations on doing your job here, and I appreciate you taking the time. That was some hard questions you had to answer there, and I appreciate you doing it.
Great.
So,
well, thank you.
Okay.